Once upon a time in the quiet village of Aluma, a stranger arrived, a woman named Jessica. Aluma was the kind of place where life moved slowly, where every face was familiar and every story already known. So when Jessica appeared, she was like a breeze from another world. She was stunning. With long, flowing hair and a complexion that seemed to glow, she carried herself with a quiet grace that turned heads. Her dresses shimmered in the sunlight, delicate fabrics brushing the cobblestone paths as if they belonged to another era. Jewelry sparkled at her wrist and neck, catching the light just right, like stars captured in silver. No one knew who she was or where she came from. She bought a small cottage on the edge of the village and lived alone, politely distant from the usual village chatter and festivities. The women watched her with wide eyes and whispered questions. Who is she? What does she do? How can someone look like that? The young ones tried to copy her style, her walk, her poise, tried to capture even a sliver of what she had, but it never quite worked. The men were worse. Enchanted, obsessed even, they sent her flowers, little gifts, awkward smiles when they crossed paths. But Jessica never seemed to notice. She moved through the village like a dream, untouchable. Whispers soared like wind. Some said she was a noblewoman, hiding from a troubled past. Others thought she'd been married to a rich merchant, now living off his fortune. But no one really knew. And Jessica never offered an explanation. One warm afternoon, a group of curious village girls finally gathered the courage to visit her cottage. Their hearts beat fast as they knocked on her door, trying not to seem too eager. Jessica welcomed them with a soft smile and an air of calm that only made her seem more mysterious. "Jessica," one of them said, "you're always so beautiful. We want to know your secret. What cream do you use? How do you live so luxuriously?" Jessica's smile deepened, her eyes gleaming like moonlight on water. "I don't use cream," she said softly, almost like she was telling them a secret. "My mother gave me something. A kind of miracle water. I drink it every day. It keeps me young and lucky." The girls gasped, eyes wide with wonder. Jessica glanced back toward the cottage, then turned to them again. "I have enough to share, if you'd like to try." "Yes," they said in unison, practically glowing with excitement. "We want the miracle water." She disappeared inside for a moment, then returned holding a small glass container filled with a clear liquid. It looked like nothing special, but in Jessica's hands, it might as well have been magic. "Drink," she said gently. "And let beauty and success find you." One by one, they drank. The taste was faint, like spring water with a hint of something different. They thanked her again and again, smiles wide as they skipped back into the village, full of hope and new dreams. Word spread fast. Soon, more and more young women found their way to Jessica's door, eyes full of longing, hearts ready to believe. And just like that, the stranger who had once been watched from afar became something else entirely, a symbol of beauty, mystery, and power. Soon, even the young men, charmed by Jessica's flawless beauty and sudden wealth, started flocking to her doorstep. They whispered to each other, convinced she held some secret that could change their lives. Jessica welcomed them with open arms, always calm, always smiling. She handed each of them the same tiny glass container, filled with shimmering, clear liquid. "Just one sip," she said gently. "And your life will never be the same." They drank without hesitation, clinging to hope. Each time someone took a sip, Jessica's smile grew just a bit wider. But behind that perfect smile, something twisted hid in her eyes. Something cold. "Good," she whispered under her breath. One by one. "It's working." The villagers called it miracle water. They believed it brought Jessica beauty and fortune. But the truth was far more terrifying. Days passed. Those who drank the water waited for change, but none came. Their skin stayed dull. Their fortunes untouched. And yet, something was happening. At night, when they closed their eyes, they found themselves elsewhere, someplace dark and wrong. Smoke drifted through the thick, heavy air. They stood shoulder to shoulder in a wide stone chamber, dressed in black robes they didn't remember putting on. Around them were others, everyone who had drunk the water. confused, frightened. At the center of the coven sat a woman, a thing, on a jagged black throne. Her face was like old paper, sagging and creased, her eyes a sickly yellow that glowed in the dim light. A twisted black crown rested on her tangled gray hair. When she smiled, her cracked lips peeled back to reveal sharp, rotten teeth. "Welcome, my children," she said, her voice low and gravelly, echoing across the stone walls. "You finally arrived." A young man stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Where are we? What is this place?" The witch laughed, a sound like bones cracking. "You drank the water of the coven," she said, almost kindly. "Now you belong to us." A shiver ran through them. They looked at one another, dread spreading like wildfire. The miracle had been a lie. They tried to run, but the air turned thick, like syrup. Their limbs refused to move. They were stuck, trapped, held by a force stronger than fear. "There is no escape," the witch hissed. "You are mine now. Soon, you will serve me. Forever." They screamed, but nothing came out. Their voices were swallowed by the shadows. Their bodies began to sink, slowly, into the floor, into the dark. And back in the village, Jessica sat before her mirror, brushing her gleaming hair. The reflection that stared back wasn't entirely hers, it flickered, shifting into the witch's face for the briefest moment. Jessica grinned, lips curling with satisfaction. "The coven grows stronger," she whispered. "Soon, this village will be mine." But someone had noticed. Her name was Blessing. Quiet, observant, and sharp. She had watched as neighbor after neighbor visited Jessica, only to return unchanged, except for the heavy bags beneath their eyes. They looked lost. Blessing knew something wasn't right. And she intended to find out what Jessica was hiding before it was too late. Determined to uncover the truth, Blessing had made up her mind, it was time to confront Jessica directly. That morning, with her heart thudding in her chest, she walked the dusty path to Jessica's house. As she approached, she forced a bright, practiced smile across her face. Jessica, sitting on her porch with her usual serene elegance, looked up and smiled knowingly. "Good morning, Jessica," Blessing greeted, her voice syrupy sweet. "I've come for my own miracle water. I want to look as beautiful as you." Jessica's lips curled into a slow smile, her eyes gleaming. "Oh, so you've finally come. I knew you would." She rose gracefully and disappeared inside the house, returning moments later with a small, glass container filled with the glistening liquid. "Here, my dear. Drink it now, and beauty will embrace you." Blessing hesitated, her fingers brushing the container. Then she shook her head gently, still smiling. "No, I want to take it home. I want to drink it every day, just like you. I want to become even more beautiful, maybe we'll look like twin sisters." For a second, Jessica's smile twitched, something dark flickering behind her eyes. But she quickly recovered with a laugh. "Of course. Take it and drink well, my dear." Blessing thanked her, turned, and walked away, her steps quick, purposeful. But she wasn't going home. She clutched the container tightly as she made her way straight to the edge of the village, to the house of the prophetess, a woman of power, known for her visions and feared by those who dealt in shadows. When she arrived, the prophetess welcomed her with a quiet nod. Blessing poured out everything, Jessica's sudden charm, the water, the way the whole village seemed enchanted. The prophetess listened, her brow furrowing deeper with each word. Finally, she took the container and held it close, whispering a prayer beneath her breath. Then, the liquid shifted. Its color darkened until it turned pitch black. A foul, sulfuric stench filled the room. Blessing stepped back, her eyes wide. What is that?" The prophetess's eyes burned with a holy fire. "This is no miracle water," she said coldly. "It's a potion of bondage. Jessica is not what she seems. She's been deceiving the village. She's working with forces far from the light." Blessing's blood ran cold. "What do we do now?" she whispered. The prophetess rose, her staff in hand. "We expose her. But first, I must pray. The darkness in this is ancient and strong. She raised her hands, calling out to the heavens. Her voice rang with power, shaking the room. The ground beneath them trembled slightly as the spiritual world stirred. Far away, in the still shadows of her home, Jessica's eyes snapped open. She sat upright, her hands curling into fists. Her voice, low and venomous, hissed into the silence. Who dares challenge me? The prophetess opened her eyes, her voice firm. Jessica is not who the village believes she is. She's an old witch reborn in a borrowed body. Take me to her. She must confess with her own mouth. Blessing nodded. Together, they stepped out, walking steadily toward Jessica's house. Word spread quickly, curious villagers saw them pass, sensing something strange in the air. One by one, they began to follow. By the time they reached Jessica's home, a small crowd trailed behind them. Jessica, sitting outside, looked up, startled. Her gaze swept over the prophetess, then the gathering crowd. She stood slowly, her smile stretched and tight. Blessing, she said, trying to sound warm. What's going on? But there was something different in her eyes now. A flicker of unease. The mask was beginning to slip. The prophetess fixed her piercing gaze on her. Who are you, and what is your mission in this village? Speak now, or the Holy Ghost fire will expose you. Jessica, always poised and graceful, faltered just for a moment. Then she smiled, charming and effortless. Prophetess, I don't understand. I'm just a woman trying to live a quiet life here. The prophetess struck her staff into the earth, eyes blazing. Do not lie to me, Jessica. Who are you, truly? What are you doing here? Jessica's eyes flickered, just a flash of something dark, but she recovered. I help people. That's all. My miracle water has healed many. The prophetess stepped forward. You call it a miracle, but I call it a curse. That water is binding souls to the kingdom of darkness. You are not who you pretend to be. A hush fell over the crowd. Someone gasped. What is she saying? A man whispered. Then Blessing stepped forward, voice trembling but steady. She's telling the truth. I brought the water to the prophetess. When she prayed over it, it turned black. It smelled foul, like death. That's not healing. That's something evil. Murmurs rippled through the villagers as they stared at Jessica, unease growing in their eyes. The prophetess raised her staff high. By the power of the Almighty, I command you, reveal your true form. Jessica's body twisted. Her beauty melted away like wax in fire. In her place stood a hunched old woman with hollow eyes and jagged, yellow teeth. Cries erupted from the crowd. A woman clutched her child. A man dropped to his knees, weeping. The prophetess pointed her staff at the figure. You have deceived this village long enough. Speak your wicked truth. The old woman smiled, her voice rough and ancient. My name is not Jessica. I am Beatrice. I was born here. Banished years ago for practicing dark magic. Gasps rang out. The elders looked at one another, pale. I wandered, Beatrice continued, until I found a place that welcomed my gifts, a kingdom of shadows. I grew stronger. I learned how to bind souls, how to walk in dreams. But I never forgot this place. I wanted revenge. She gave a low, bitter laugh. So I changed. I wore a new face, beautiful, powerful, charming. I knew if I came back as Beatrice, no one would welcome me. But as Jessica. Oh, they welcomed me with open arms. The women wanted to be me. The men. They were the easiest to fool. She looked around the crowd, her smile wide and cruel. I gave you my miracle water, and with each sip, you joined me. At night, your spirits leave your bodies and gather with mine. This village was becoming my kingdom. Sobs broke out. People clung to their loved ones. A woman cried out, You tricked us. My daughter drank your water. Beatrice shrugged. You all wanted something: beauty, wealth, love. I gave you what you wanted. It's not my fault you never asked the price. The prophetess stepped forward, face firm with conviction. You've had your time. Your lies end now. You can't stop me, Beatrice snarled. They belong to me. Even if you kill me, the covenant holds. The prophetess turned to the villagers. If you drank the water, come forward. Slowly, trembling, they stepped out. Some were weeping. Others looked like they were waking from a terrible dream. If you want to be free, she said gently, kneel and renounce every tie to darkness. One by one, they fell to their knees, raising their voices in desperation. I renounce it. I renounce the covenant. I belong to God. The ground shook. Beatrice screamed, clutching her chest as power drained from her. No. No. I built this. I own them. The prophetess raised her staff once more. Holy Ghost fire, consume every work of darkness. A brilliant light tore through the sky and engulfed Beatrice. Her scream echoed through the village as her body burned into ash. Silence followed. Then a breeze swept through the village, soft, clean, peaceful. Blessing looked to the prophetess, tears running down her face. Is it over? The prophetess nodded. Yes, my child. The darkness is gone. The village is free. From that day on, the village never forgot what they had learned. Not everything that glitters is a gift from God. Sometimes, the most beautiful things hide the deepest dangers. And no price is worth your soul.